So Microsoft has just released WSL Containers, which build container technology directly into Windows. It's very similar in look and feel to Docker, so anybody that's familiar with using Docker will find it very easy to use WSL Containers. In fact, the flags are basically the same. It's built on WSL, so it's part of Windows Subsystem for Linux. You don't need to install it as a separate product. As long as you've got WSL, it's just a feature of WSL, and you can get it today and use it. So what I want to do in this video is show it to you running, go through very quickly some of the examples that you can do to fire up a container on Windows using WSL containers. We'll also remark along the way how similar that is to the Docker implementation. And at the end of the video, I want to talk about why has Microsoft done this? What is its motivation? So if you want to find out more, please let me explain. Okay, so here I am in a PowerShell on my Windows PC. The very first thing you should do is update your WSL so that you get this latest release with the container stuff in it. I'm using the --" pre-release flag now because of when I'm making it, because it's only just come out. Later on, you probably don't need that, but you run that to make sure everything is up to date, and mine is already up to date because obviously I did it a little earlier. Then to make sure that you've got the new command, WSLC for containers, then we can just run WSLC --" help, and there you can see that's worked. Actually, turns out there's an alias called container, so we can also just do container --" help, and it's actually the same as running WSLC. So there are aliases one for the other. Now, the very first command that you would want to run is that most simple command that will just echo something to the screen. So here it is, WSL run, okay, --rm -it ubuntu latest --c echo hello world from WSL container. Now, if you know Docker, of course, some of that's very familiar. Look, --rm -it is exactly what you would do on Docker. In fact, ubuntu latest is actually downloaded from Docker Hub. So these container images come from Docker Hub. So when you run this, it's going to start up an Ubuntu container. It's going to run this bash command, which basically just says print this on the screen. RM means it will remove the container afterwards, and IT means it's interactive enough that we can get this echoing back on here to the terminal. Okay, so let's run that. So the first thing it says, well, I haven't got an Ubuntu image, so it's going to go away and download that from, as I said, from Docker Hub. So it's downloading the image, and it does this once. If I then run this command multiple times, it's finished that now, and look here at the very end, hello world from WSL container. If I run it again, it doesn't go through that download phase because that's now on my machine. In fact, I can do a WSLC image list to see which container images I've actually got downloaded, and there you can see there it is, Ubuntu has been downloaded. So there you go. Now, because this is basically, I can run anything I can run on the Ubuntu command line. I can run something else like uname -a, tells me what architecture it is, and at the same time, I echo out the OS release file. So if I run that, it will tell me that here it is, that's the uname output here, that's the kernel that it's running, and then here is the thing from the etc/OS release. So it's telling me it's running Ubuntu 26.04 long-term support. Brilliant. Now, of course, I can do other things with containers, like, for example, I can run a web server. So again, same thing. It's interactive. It's going to remove it afterwards. It's going to run it in the background now. That's what -d means. And it's going to map port 8080 on my machine, my local Windows machine, to port 80 on the container. And it's going to give it a name. And I'm going to run this popular web server. Hasn't got that image. It's going to go and pull it again, just like it did with Ubuntu a moment ago. And that's it, and it's downloaded and it's running. Now notice there's nothing else on the screen now because it's running that web server now in the background. And I can check that out by doing WSLC and then PS. And it's telling me, look, there it is. There is the web container running, and it's just started a few seconds ago. And it's telling me about the mapping there of the ports. So if I open a web browser on my machine, point it at the local host at port 8080, then there you go, I get the welcome screen for the web server. Now, if I want to stop that container, I can do WSL container stop, and I call it web because that was the name that I give it, so it's easy to access it. And now if I do the PS, I can see that it has gone. Now, one other important aspect of this container implementation by Microsoft is that you get GPU pass-through. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to run a PyTorch container, which has got CUDA built in and enabled on it. And then I'm going to run a very quick Python script which basically sees if CUDA is available to Python and then prints out some information about it. So again, we can start up this container. It's not got it downloaded, so you can go ahead and download it and then it will run it. Okay, so it's fired that up, and yes, it does have access, and it says that I've got my RTX 5090. So there you go, a container with GPU pass-through, so you can run all kinds of AI workloads, for example, inside the containers. Now, looking at its motivation, it's very easy to say, well, they've just cloned Docker and taken all that stuff and put it into Windows. Now, before we go any further, we have to point out that WSL, Windows Subsystem for Linux, is open source, and that WSL Containers is also open source as part of WSL. So there's nothing proprietary or hidden here. It is just an open source project that's part of Windows Subsystems for Linux. But as I said, because it literally just does exactly the same way as Docker does, and because it uses the same images as Docker, you could kind of get the idea they're just trying to steal Docker's market share on Windows. And that's a valid criticism, and I'm still thinking about that. And obviously there will be some people in the comments who will write embrace, extend, extinguish in the comment about this move by Microsoft, and I can understand why they would say that. But let's look at it on the other side, on the flip side. Clearly, developers writing, TypeScript or JavaScript, React, full stack apps and other things, AI stuff today, and C, C++, Golang, Rust and all that, they are very easy to develop on Linux or on Mac OS rather than on Windows. In fact, often the path onto Windows is actually being a bit more tricky, a bit more pitfalls as you go along. So Microsoft has been doing a lot to make the entry point to any of these technologies, whatever your preferred technology is, a lot of these technologies make the entry point, the barrier to entry, very low on Windows. I mean, I remember a time when trying to run a Python script on Windows was just a nightmare because it just was not part of their thinking. That's very different nowadays. So you could say what they're actually trying to do is not because they're trying to steal things from Linux particularly, or they're trying to take away things from Docker particularly. It's actually, in my mind, they're more kind of scared, concerned with people who are using Mac OS. Because of course with Mac OS you get a lovely OS and your nice desktop and everything, and it's all lovely. But you can also just open up a command prompt and you've got a Unix type command prompt there, and you can do things very simply there. And now with WSL, you've got that with Windows, and now you've got containers. Now of course it doesn't steal anything from Docker's market share, in the sense that people aren't going to take a Windows machine and then install this on it and then deploy it. So it's not about deployment. Deployment is already either done on Linux or it's done on whatever platform the company is using. This isn't trying to say, hey, we want people to run Windows in production. That's not the aim here. The aim here is to get the developers to say to developers, you don't need to abandon Windows. You can do this on Windows. You don't need to do it on Linux. You don't need to do it on Mac OS. And in fact, you don't even need to go away and install, Docker, because we do it natively. So that's the kind of thinking that I have about what they're trying to do. Love to hear your thoughts. Do you have a different interpretation of this? Don't just write, yeah, it's because they're rubbish. Tell me a reason. Give me some thinking. Let's engage our brains in this. Let's talk about it. Anyway, that's it for this video. See you in the next one.